Guys, it was funny on the floor, as the whip and what I do and with the whip team that I have, what we do on the floor is that we secure votes, we make sure that we know where the vote counts are, that we're constantly talking to people, because here's the thing, guys, it's like Chris said earlier, you don't know until you know where it counts, and you don't know if the vote's going to back up because people got different information. So you always have to check your votes, always. And so I've seen this, people do this on judge races, on bill votes. They think that they have it, and then it fails. And so we were on the floor, and Bill Taylor asked me, he said, "Do you want to speak? You've worked hard on this too." I said, "No, I don't want to speak. I want to whip the floor. That's what I need to do." And we had one vote. You remember this vote? We're sitting there, I'm thinking everything's good, we're coasting. And we had one vote that we lost. It was an amendment. Remember that? And I looked up and I said, "What in the world is wrong with these people? Let me go." So I had to go whip the floor again, and we got it done. And I'll say this for y'all. I mean, persistence matters. Advocacy matters. What you do matters, obviously because of the Constitution and future generations, and that's why we do what we do. But guys, I don't think I've ever seen the level of advocacy on an issue that I've seen from this group, ever. I mean, you had people, seriously, give yourself a round of applause. You had people everywhere. You had them posted up in the trees. You had them in the garage, in the buildings. You had them banging on the windows as we're going to lunch. The only place that you didn't have one was like in the bathrooms, right?
You're close.
So, it's funny in the legislature is we elect board of trustees for colleges and we elect judges in the legislature. And so, those folks are always there, and you find people in the legislature who try to avoid those meetings because it just gets to be a lot. When you're going to session and you get stopped 10 times by judge candidates that are running in Lawrence County or Aiken or Edgefield or wherever, it's just a lot. And so I think people in the legislature actually got a pretty good tour, if they hadn't had one before, of different pathways to get to the General Assembly to avoid you, But it matters, and I'll tell you this on the floor, in just whipping the votes, that there were a lot of people who were, I'm not going to say uncomfortable, but they just didn't understand it like Jason was talking about. They didn't understand the mechanics of what we do and why this is important and how this works and how this fits into the federal system that is in our Constitution. They didn't quite get it. And so education from you, advocacy from you, help with Bill Taylor, who is, he is like a pit bull, truly. That matters, and that is why it passed, right? And at the end of the day, the logistics behind this, and why we do what we do, and why this is important, is because we believe in our federal system. If you look at the Federalist Papers and what our founders did, and the reasoning behind the things that they did and why these things were in there. George Mason looked at this and said, we're going to give just the Congress the ability to amend themselves, right? So they added the protection because at the very fundamental level, what this is all about is the people at the top. The people are at the top. It's not the president or the Congress or the courts. It is the people. And so the check through a very localized form of government in the state legislatures, that matters. And so when DC gets out of control, which they are, this is a check. And so it's important. It's important for I've got a 4-year-old who's just started playing soccer. He's wide open. It was funny the other day when you watch 4-year-olds play soccer. It's kind of like the legislature, right? Like they're all running around. And one kid pulled down his shorts and he's running around in a diaper, and the other one's chasing a dragonfly. But I'm reminded every time I go to work in the legislature from Horry County. It's a 3-hour drive. I'm reminded all the time when we come up there why we do what we do, and it's not for us. It's not for the $10,400 a year pre-tax that we get. It is for our children, it's for our grandchildren, and that's why you're doing what you do, and that's why it's so important to continue on. Because guess what? We're up. The score is up, but it's halftime. And the next half, next year with the Senate, is going to be even more challenging, because it always is in the Senate. Right, Shane? and it's more important. So keep it up, keep up with the advocacy, find people to go station in the bathrooms or outside the bathrooms, whatever you got to do, put them in tree stands, whatever works. But the advocacy, the outreach, the education, those are all important. Because this isn't an everyday issue, right? This is kind of a novel issue. And it takes that level of education to get people engaged, understand it, and then they'll support it. So keep it up, keep up the professionalism like was talked about earlier, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.